Welcome back. I trust that you have been doing great. It's been a minute, and we are honored to be able to have you. We trust that the last couple of months have also been exciting. My name is Newton Seal, and I'd like to welcome you to Coaching for Impact podcast. And I'd like to ask my fellow podcaster just to remind us his name and also just be able to say something small.
My name is Nadine Ochieng, and what a pleasure it is. And as Newton said, time really flies. I mean, it looks like the other day we were doing the podcast talking about the new year. The year is ending. That's interesting. But welcome back. Please join and get to tag someone else along, get to share. Because I believe that what we are discussing here is impacting and changing lives. So welcome to this session. Newton.
Thank you so much, Nadini. And it's interesting because today our topic is actually bouncing back. So I wouldn't want to believe that this applies to us, but we have been around, and I'm sure that you've been taking time not just to watch the podcast, but also really to be able to share and just make sure that you get blessed, and the kind of knowledge and messages that we try to communicate really resonates. So today we are talking about bouncing back.
Yay.
And I think this year has been quite tough. I don't know where you are when the Gen Zs decided to do their thing, but I've gotten so many people that ask, Newton, you know, it's been a very difficult time for me. How do I bounce back? How do I really get back to myself? Because I feel like I've really gone deep under a hole. What would be your advice?
I think for me, the first thing to say is life gives us lemons. I don't think there is any place in life where things just go smooth. Life always has a way of throwing lemons onto us. But the reality is then it's up to me or the person facing the circumstances to be able to know how to make the lemonade and enjoy it. And just move on with life and realize that I'd say, throw some more. I'm ready for it. And I think as we talk about bouncing back today, the understanding should be that everyone goes through this hard time. And by the way, without these hard times, it's hard for you actually to function in life, because we are meant to sort out challenges in life. We solve problems. So if there are no problems in life, life becomes boring. People think that when you get so much money, you sit and do nothing. Life is good. Actually, you realize you won't enjoy it at all. And I've seen many people who've gone back to work. I've seen actually people who've made it in life going back to work in their late 60s because they realize there's nothing fun about just eating the money you had saved for yourself. Yeah, so I think for me, what is important is to understand that these challenges equip us. And they equip us by, number one, making us function in life, making us functional. Newton, if you're not functional in life, I'm trying to imagine of someone who's retired and they are old now, they are being hanged out like clothes, and they are removed and taken back to the house. I don't know what's good about that.
By the way, now that you mention Nadine, one of the things that is interesting is that people that tend to bounce back have a certain capability. And of course, we've linked this partly to emotional intelligence. But I want to go back to a point that you mentioned earlier. I think we don't realize that difficult times have been there. In fact, somebody did quote once that they've been there for as long as the Dead Sea has been dead. And I must say the Dead Sea has been dead for quite many thousands of years.
Yeah.
But, coming back to today's world, maybe it's because people feel, post-COVID-19 politics, economy, so many wars that are going on around the world, and then just difficult circumstances, work, personal lives, relationships. They feel like they reach a point of no return. Why should they believe that it's possible to be able to bounce back?
The reason you should believe it's possible to bounce back is the fact that you woke up today. I think the fact that I didn't die yesterday, I'm here today, represents another chance that I've been given that something can happen. Now, the reality is something can happen to those who are ready to do something. It's not that something happens to those who sit and wait. It is those who are ready to take up the challenge and do something. So I want to challenge someone out there. Be ready to do something. Actually, the Bible says that God blesses the work of our hands. So in other words, if you are not working something out, You're not giving him anything to work with. Now, actually, Newton, I know it's not a spiritual session, but when you go to the Bible, I doubt there's a place where God just came and did something. He always asked what you already have. You remember Moses? What is that in your hands? You remember the widow? What do you have at home? Go make some. God works with what already you have. There must be something you have. Now, strange enough, you may not have money, but you have your brains. But you have ability to talk. But you have ability to discern situations. Now, these things present an opportunity actually for you to kickstart something. Let me tell you, there are people out there who look out just for a talk. Now, I normally joke and say, like, Kambas have gift of gab. You know, they talk and talk. By the way, have you realized radio stations have so many Kambas?
Yes.
Because they talk. But Newton...
You have to put a disclaimer.
Yes,
you're
it's
saying
a
that
disclaimer.
Kambas are like radios.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
okay.
But the reality is, have you realized they also live longer?
Yes.
Because they talk and talk. The reality is, Newton, that God has placed something in our hands. And as I said in the beginning, the reason that you're here today is another chance presented to you to do something.
Maybe to put into context, why don't you give us an example of a circumstance where you yourself needed to bounce back, and how did you do it?
Hey, Newton, let me share a story. You know, there are these good investments. And you know, you are told. You are basically...
It's been in news lately, especially our colleagues from the new city of Eldoret.
Yes. So now I saw this place and I said, let me check out. Because, you know, they normally say, how long has this place been functioning? You know, those are the markers.
Yes.
Have they been making profits?
Yes.
So I go to this particular place and they say they've been functioning for the last 15 years. And they've been making good profit.
And you're convinced.
And I'm convinced. And I take my good amount of money. I'll not mention.
Your
I know
hard-earned savings.
Yes. Hard-earned savings. And I put in this place. And 3 months down the line, it has sunk.
Ukaanguka nayo.
Let me tell you, I sat down and thought, okay, what just happened? You know, first of all, you have to tell yourself, okay, what just happened? Now you have that stage of denial. Then you are thinking this did not happen. Oh, I'll go to my accounts and check and find the money still there. And check, you realize it's not there. I quickly had to realize that I needed to restart again. And I think what I did is I had to scale down on my expenditures so that now I set aside something to try capitalize, you know, again and find money that I can invest. And Newton, I can say I've bounced back. I think that's for me. I can use.
That's good news. That's very good news. Let me give you my experience. It's a number of years back, but I remember once I was working in an organization, and unfortunately things didn't turn out as the founder had initiated, and the business really went down south. And so in a couple of months, almost 8 or 9 months after we started the job, we found ourselves at a point where the owner decided to shut down completely and relocate. And true enough, I remember, so I did reach out to a friend of mine, and he happened to come from my home. He was running a very successful business, and he told me, you know what, you're lucky, I have an opportunity, let me start the process. And so we started the process, discussed, and I knew that as I'm finishing my job on the other side, I have a guaranteed job, you know. Even went ahead and actually paid part of my outstandings in the other company. Now, the day that I was supposed to report to work, I remember it like it was yesterday, just 24 hours before, he calls me and tells me that unfortunately the budget has been declined and there's no job. And here I am, very young, just a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 years after finishing college. And you know how Nairobi is.
Yeah.
And I remember what a friend of mine was saying, now does this mean now we pack our things and relocate back up country? And it was a very interesting moment because one of the things that helped me to be able to bounce back, and it was a very encouraging moment from one of my colleagues. He told me, just try out something else. And I remember for somebody who'd, come from a pharmacy and a medical background, I ended up going into banking for 8 months.
Yeah,
but that was my bounce back.
I met a banker who said they worked with you.
Yes, that was my bounce back. And I think what we are trying today to pass across as a message is that you will definitely go through difficult times. Nobody gets to be excused. That's a card that you get to be handed over in life. And can you really bounce back? 100%. You can be able to bounce back. And that's our encouragement today. My message is no matter what you're going through, always ask yourself, am I ready? to be able to bounce back. Don't get stuck at where you have found yourself, but find a way out. And what would your message be to our audience today?
I think my message is the same as yours. I had a friend of mine who went from earning 250,000 shillings per month to having lost everything. He had been deceived by a friend of his from the US to begin an ISP providing company. So he set up a company, then the guy bailed out. So after paying staff 6 months down the line, he's gone back to zero. And I remember so well that guy coming back to me and telling me, I don't know what to do. But because we grew up in Nakuru, he knew that he can go back home and restart. So he sold off some of the things he had from the house, his house. This is an encouragement to my fellow people who are viewing us from outside. He sold the things in the house. He only left the things that he would carry on a pickup. So he borrowed a pickup from one of our friends and moved back to Nakuru to a one room. And being someone who is a quick thinker, he thought of a strategy how to restart life. And he asked his mother, because I can't get a loan, because I don't have collateral, can you ask from many of your friends just 50,000, get me $500,000? The mother said, please don't sink us into debt. But he said, in 2 months, I'm returning the money. So because he's a quick thinker, he got that money, and he called his friend in China, found out something they could do. And I tell you, Newton, in 1 year, he was a millionaire.
That's
And
bouncing back.
he told me something that I want to leave with my viewers who are viewing us, that it is never too late to restart life. You can always restart and rebuild. Just focus on what you want to do and pursue it without feeling that you have self-doubt. I believe that's a good message to you, my brother out there. Life will work. Only bounce back.
Thank you so much, Nadini. And that really sums up our message today. What we are trying to encourage you, even as we come towards the latter part of this year, is you can bounce back regardless of what you're going through. If organizations, countries, businesses have been able to rebuild, who are you? You can definitely be able to bounce back. And we hope that that's a message that you will not only believe, but also please share with those that really need to get to hear that they can be able to bounce back. Thank you so much, and see you again in our next podcast.
See you.
See you.